Hello, friends, it's Emily, and I'm honoured you're joining me. Today I'm chatting with my dear friend and mentor, Kira. Kira is a channel for the ultimate light. As an Elohim aspect and Oraphim, she has access to our Creator's light technology. Subsequently, she is sharing this with humanity to help us all embody more light and achieve our highest light resonance. Kira is a keeper of many gates, many pathways of consciousness on many worlds and timelines, and has been given the task of keeping the gates open for ascension. You can find her at frequencyandlighthealing.com. And meanwhile, enjoy our yummy chat where we explore some juicy topics.
I'm so happy to connect with you, Kira. Thank you for coming on.
You're welcome, Emily. Lovely to see you at last.
Yes, it's such a joy. So I have something that's just been arising over the last couple of days, just about this year. Is this actually 2012, as the Ethiopian and Mayan calendars may have been indicating, and maybe we've all been a bit duped? Do you have any insights on whether we're in 2020 or 2012?
Well, I do know that I have heard that December is a pivotal point, the 21st of December, which again is funny because that relates to 2012 in a way, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
The galactic alignment. But it feels like December the 21st this year is probably more to do with a bifurcation, maybe a splitting of the timelines, depending on what reality we're creating. I mean, there are so many of us here now who are vibrating in alignment with a higher light that it has to change, it has to crystallize, and we have to move into a higher vibrational reality. But there will be some that will not want that. You know, they're quite happy to follow the herd and, you know, follow servitude and be controlled. So they also have to have free will.
Yeah.
And so their reality must be allowed to exist because we attract whatever we're in vibrational alignment with, don't we? I mean, the world is a vibrating mass of energy, and our vibration attracts our alignment. So if we want to change what we're attracting, change our vibration. Raise our vibration.
So easy, Kira. But it is just a choice, you know.
Yeah. I mean, as I said, it's free will for every soul to choose. Not every soul will choose the light, a higher light at this time.
Yeah.
But many of us will. That's why we came.
Yeah, it's very poignant to be alive right now. It's quite remarkable. But the contrast is you know, deepening, and the gravity of these choices are becoming more stark, and the acceleration is, you know, the quickening is really quite extraordinary right now to witness, you know, the different choices that people are making.
Yeah. But obviously there will be a polarization as we start to crystallize the 5D matrix. There's going to be a polarization of energy for those souls that are holding a lower vibrational frequency versus those of us that are not. So.
Yeah, and hence we were brought together. I was divinely led to you. But those perhaps who've been hearing about, you know, 5D or 3D, 4D, the different dimensions, could you maybe just present a nutshell for those?
Yeah. Well, basically, it is all dependent upon our light. Any dimension is dependent upon the light of the souls that reside there. This is very true and very easy to observe if you happen to have ever visited the astral plane. The astral plane is a vast place. There are lower versions of the astral plane which are very dark, and versions that are lighter. And of course, the light each individual soul holds is responsible for the light within each dimension. There is no other light. It's purely the light that comes from within that lights up the realm. So that's why those souls of a lower vibrational nature that gravitate to the lower astral plane, that's why it's so dark there.
Mm.
You know, I had an experience a few years ago where I found myself wandering around the lower astral, and it wasn't very pleasant. It's very dull, like a, I don't know, it was like a dark grey world. And then I happened to see someone I knew vaguely from where I used to live. This lady who used to push a Alsatian dog around in a pushchair. It's very strange. I didn't know her personally to speak to, but she appeared in the lower astral. And I took one look and I thought, oh no, I don't want to be here. So I said, take me higher, spirit, take me higher. And instantly, Emilie, I was whisked out of it into pure bright white light. And I actually did see, though, like an octagonal template on a board, and there was some sort of language or glyphs written on it. Now, I can't tell you what they mean. At some level, probably I know, my soul knows what they mean, but obviously this is something much higher than, much higher than the lower astral plane anyway. So I say, you know, dimensions are only awareness. Dimensions are not places. People seem to think, well, it's a place we go to. You know, well, if we die and we go to heaven, when we might sit on a cloud. Well, of course, if you believe that, that's going to be your experience. But it won't last for long, because some guide will appear and say, uh-oh, you know,
Move along.
I think you're programming wrong here. You need to continue your evolution. It's all about awareness, what we are consciously aware of, that determines where we vibrate at. So we've got what we call the different dimensions. Each dimension is birthed through a void, which is 0 point field, and it's total blackness. I mean, not the astral plane, it is total pitch black.
Like a portal.
I did, well, it's like the womb. I call it the womb. Each dimension has a womb. Right. And I actually did visit the womb between dimensions once. Another strange experience. I was lying on my bed. It might have been when I was about to wake up or just waking up. And I suddenly found myself out of my body, and my head suddenly went through the ceiling of my bedroom, and everything was pitch black. Now, most people think, oh, that's horrible. But you know, Emilie, the strange thing is, I couldn't see anything. I couldn't see any structure, but the air was phenomenal. It was full of life force.
Wow.
It was like I've never breathed real air before. It definitely contained such energy and life. So this is obviously the womb of the dimension, and each dimension has a womb that births it in between. So I guess really, when a soul departs one dimension for another, then it's going to pass through the womb at some point.
And that is in this lifetime, rather than like moving into, you know, transitioning through death into another lifetime.
Well, obviously there are different ways of transitioning. We can die and drop the body. That's the old way. What I call the lower way. Not there's any judgment. There's no judgment in that. That's just the way I see it.
Yeah.
There's also the way of resurrection. Now, this has been described as being at the point of death where a soul suddenly realizes that they actually have a light body and they can move into that. And so they actually, although they will drop the body, they will move into the light body into a higher dimension. So they won't be stuck in the reincarnation cycle. Right? And then lastly, there is what we'll probably call ascension. And this is where we already know we have a light body in this existence. We came in either knowing it or we discovered it. We maybe have activated the light body and it's ready. It's ready to put into gear. So when it's our time to transition, we just put the light body into gear and we're off, because it is an engine. It is a definite vehicle. It is not something obscure. It is not some sphere of light as such. It is actually like a 3D tetrahedron. It's a structure, but it's made of light, and it enables us to travel through dimensions. I remember reading on something. The Egyptians apparently had inscriptions. So, obviously they recognized the Merkaba. They knew that they would travel using the Merkaba. We have a Merkaba for every level of, every dimensional level. We build and activate the Merkaba at each level. So we have our 3D Merkaba is actually our etheric body. Now, people won't probably know this. The etheric body is an amazing being. We can actually connect with it and ask it to heal us.
Yeah,
there was a lady that wrote a book. I think her name was Trudy, something like Trudy Lannis, and she wrote a book called Bioetheric Healing.
Right.
She points out techniques that we can use to connect with the etheric body, to speak with it, and we can use it to heal us. So that's our light body for third dimension. Obviously, we have a fifth dimensional light body. We have sixth dimensional, seventh dimensional, onwards. Also traveling.
And the planet is also ascending, this plane, which people may be able to grasp or relate to. I know I'm hearing more and more tones. Is that something that you think is a symptom of, the Schumann resonance, or, the ascension that's happening?
Yeah, it could be, but also you could be, if you're hearing tones, up to different frequencies, higher frequencies.
Yeah.
And I get that. I will suddenly get some high frequency sound in my ear, and I think, hello, somebody's trying to connect. Which they probably are. I'm not, but it's, Emily, if I'm working, then that's too bad. I have to be dedicated to my clients. I cannot say, hang on a minute, I've got to do this.
But there's such an empowering perspective, there's such fear, and and that's the lower vibrational stuff, about oh gosh, I'm hearing tones, what's going to happen? Is Nibiru going to crash into the planet?
Well, there's so much misinformation. A lot of things have been given to us to distort what really exists. There's a lot of bad publicity about Orion, for instance.
Yeah.
You hear people talk about, the Orion Wars and the Greys and all the negative stuff that you'll probably think about, they produce. But what they don't realize is, Emily, Orion is an amazing center of power that the Elohim use to not only construct and operate the planetary grid, but it's used to ascend all beings. It contains the codes of life for every single being, every single species in the multiverse. And the Orion Belt specifically, this is because our ancient structures, like the pyramids, like the pyramids of Giza, the Bosnian pyramids, the Sun, Moon and Earth pyramid, the Teotihuacan pyramids, the Hopi Mesas, they're all structures of three pyramids, one that's always slightly out of alignment, which always connects with Mintaka on the Orion Belt, but they're all aligned with the Orion Belt. But nobody will tell you why. They will say, you listen to some people like David Wilcock and others saying, well, it's because Orion is the home of our creators, but it's not totally true actually. They do have their databases there, but it's because it's a massive evolutionary center. And of course, it also relates to 3, the power of 3, which again is a significant relation to the 3 pyramids, 3 being the number of creation. Everything in our reality is in 3s. We always say things happen in 3s, don't we?
Yeah.
And we say past, present, and future. Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. It's always about 3. 3 is hidden in plain sight, and people do not understand the full importance of it. But again, it relates to the Orion belt.
So how can we delve more into this? Your ebooks are just extraordinary, by the way. Anyone who would like to activate more, there's so many triggers and activations just in reading your ebooks, such an abundance of information. But if we wanted to delve more into, the Orion belt information.
Well, we actually have all the codes that the Elohim have given us are on my website, Frequency and Light Healing, under Elohim grids.
Brilliant.
Even the code grid that creates all species, all universes and star systems is there. But they're very, 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 very simple grids. Not like the mandalas that you see people creating. They're deceptively simple. But also obviously powerful. I mean, in my book, the most powerful things are the most simplest.
Yeah, and we have this sort of ingrained thing of wanting to figure it out, and making it more difficult than it needs to be, and that's the exquisiteness in your work. It's so simple and immediate. Yeah.
I mean, it's really the intellectual mind that tries to analyze and give structure when we don't need it. I think people also, when they receive light systems via myself, will often say, well, what do I do? They seem totally confused that it's so simple that you only have to make an intention and the energy's gone. The energies contain their own divine wisdom and they know what to do. It's not up to us as a human being to interfere. It's only up to us to activate, to initialize the energy and then let it do its work. So there's no learning, no manuals, no structure. In fact, any higher dimensional healing modality that requires us to learn isn't higher dimensional. Not in my opinion. I'm not judging. I'm not judging because obviously their modalities have served.
Totally.
I mean, everything serves us, Emilie, in some way or another.
Yeah.
And things serve us for a time.
Exactly. Yeah, but it really is about receiving and allowing. We've done the work.
We have to let go of the old ways. We're now vibrating at such a different frequency, and we really need to step out of the past and move into the future and adopt future systems which are in alignment with our higher light bodies, our higher matrix. So I was explaining that to a lady that's just joined the Gateway group. Bless her, she's booked a Gateway course. And she asked me what was the difference between the Gateway and the Reiki system. So I had to explain in length that this is why. I mean, obviously, Reiki does hold some power in itself if a person is in alignment with that. But the only problem with Reiki is there are only 3 symbols that actually update. And that was because they were taken from Atlantis. All the other symbols don't. So what you're actually doing when you're using symbols on another individual and they don't update, that poor person will find their spiritual growth restricted at some point.
Stop.
They will only be able to grow to a certain level. So obviously the Reiki system will serve to a point, but it isn't foolproof, it's not future proof.
Yeah.
They will stop being able to grow, and really they will need to probably have the symbols removed.
Fascinating.
With the gateway, as I call it, gateway ascension, gateway energy is totally self-updating. No symbols, nothing to learn, nothing to study, because the energy is divine. It does everything itself for us.
Yeah.
We don't need to get involved, just get out of the way.
Yes.
I don't practice Reiki. I used to do years ago, but since we've had this, there's no way I would do that.
And how do you receive this info? Is it a knowingness? Are you hearing a guide, or tell us a little bit about that.
No, I don't really do guides, Emily. It might seem a bit odd to say. But then again, I suppose you could also say the higher self is a guide.
Yeah.
I mean, since I was going to say even 1 year old, definitely since I was 6,
wow,
I was able to hear my higher self.
What a gift.
But, you know, that's just the way I came in.
Yeah, I love that.
Not everybody comes into this reality with that ability or that channel open, do they? They have to either develop it or listen for the higher self or the voice of the higher self. And the more we listen within and act upon the guidance, the stronger the voice gets. It's really important to act on guidance. Now, the voice will sound like your voice.
Yeah.
This is the thing. People might think, well, is that really me? Or
well,
is it my
discernment issue? Yeah.
That being able to discern this, of course, is easy for me because I released all my Kundalini. People have often said, I've seen people on the internet saying, well, how do you know that this being or that being that's coming to you is of a higher vibration, or, you know, a true higher being? Well, the discernment is easy when you've released all of the Kundalini, because what you actually get is a very powerful vibration in the throat chakra area, throat center, which will automatically start vibrating rapidly when you're in the presence of a being that is a higher being. So when I want to discern the energy of somebody, I can go onto a website, and if I'm not vibrating, so basically what that's telling me is the vibration of that website, or the person who's created the website, or the channel there, is not vibrating in alignment with me, or lower, certainly lower than I am. So I discard it.
That's everything right there. There's such a beautiful tip for the discernment.
So I can never be fooled. No being can come to me. No interdimensional being can appear to me and fool me, because I couldn't be taken in. I already automatically know where their energy is.
Yeah.
Having released Kundalini is really, really important, even from that aspect.
What age were you when you had that Kundalini clearing?
30. When I was in my late 20s, somebody did my astrology chart, and it said I was going to die at the age of 30. So I thought, oh, well, what's the point? I'll just live for today. So I didn't really think. I thought, well, you know, que sera, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen. Wow. But in a way, of course, it was a death and a rebirth. It was a death of the old self. And the weirdest thing is, Emily, it happened. It happened on the date that I should have been born, because I came.
I've got the identical story. I can't. Keep going.
I came, actually, my official birthday is the 4th of September, right?
I can't. This is crazy.
I should have been born on the 6th, but for some reason, I obviously couldn't wait to get into this world, and I came on the 4th.
Wow.
Now, mind you, it does relate to the fact that my dad's mum was also the 6th, and one of her daughters was the 6th, which is a power of 3, which is very strange. So on the after doing this release technique, which a lady called Amy gave me, which I didn't know that I was releasing my Kundalini. She never told me, bless her. I practiced it for months, probably about 5 months. And then 6th of September, suddenly, terrific energy started pouring down, pressing down on my head. And I knew, so, although it was quite scary, because at the time I was quite ill, really.
Right.
I'd been very emotional, traumatized. I had actually been drinking to try and stop this inner instability I was feeling. When we let go of the ego self, we start to disintegrate within, in a way, and the psyche disintegrates, and we get this awful feeling of fear. It feels like fear and shaking. And so I'd unfortunately taken to drinking alcohol to try and to squash this a bit, to make me feel a bit more normal. So I'd made myself quite ill, really, Emily, and I thought I was going mad. On the positive side, this powerful energy started pushing its way through my head, through the crown chakra. I knew somehow that I had to allow it in. If I didn't, I wouldn't survive. So I did. And it shot straight down my spine, obviously straight to the Kundalini reservoir, activated and opened the reservoir, then what they call the Shakti, the Kundalini energy, the female energy, rose back up, all the way up the spine, blowing open all my chakras.
Wow.
And I experienced what they call the peace that passes understanding. Only when you've had a full release do you experience this, by the way. There are different levels of Kundalini release, but when you've had a full and complete emptying of the reservoir, you will experience the peace that passes understanding. And it's like it's indescribable. It's like a peace that indwells everything. Every cell is infused with this amazing peace.
Wow.
Now, that lasted for weeks. I also experienced what they call the hall of learning. I was standing at the kitchen sink preparing dinner when it happened, and suddenly it was like an opening at the top of my head, and all this information started pouring through. I mean, in those days we didn't use the word download, but it was a download, and I was shown a bit like a video of life, how life is created, how the planets were created, the solar systems, what happens with what they call the day and night of Brahma, where there are physical planets in existence for thousands of years, then they are destroyed, and there are no planets for thousands of years. That's the night of Brahma, as the Eastern people call it. And then the Big Bang happens again. It's happened many times. It's not just one Big Bang, continuous cycle.
Wow. So you're standing at the kitchen sink and it's
Peeling potatoes, I might add.
Take note. Wow. So you say the sense of peace continued for some weeks, but it's also continued over years, a degree of...
There is still obviously a degree of peace there. That level of connectedness with that realm. I mean, I did ask Amy, I said, what's this about, Amy? And she said, well, that's where will be in another reality when we're far removed from the earth plane. There were so many experiences from that. My higher self voice became very, very loud suddenly. And it was quite funny. I would be sitting in the lounge and I would suddenly hear a voice, a very loud voice, saying someone's name. Within 2 seconds, the door was going and that person was standing at the door. And also, I had experiences like one in particular I can think of. I was going shopping and I happened to look down the street, and about 300 yards away, I saw someone walking and I saw their back. And I remember thinking, oh, I think that's so and so, someone I knew. And the instant I thought that, Emilie, they stopped and turned around and looked at me. Automatically, my auric field had expanded and connected with them.
So potent.
That way, there are so many gifts.
Yeah.
And of course, the biggest gift is non-attachment.
Yeah, so talk to us about this, because this sort of intertwines with, this conversation I wanted to go a little bit deeper into about, I've touched upon it many times in our correspondence with this old paradigm of needing pain to have some sort of breakthrough or kundalini clearing, and having these attachments or this addiction to drama or, whatever it is, how it's showing up. You're living this, you're embodying I suppose where we desire to be. So what are your insights about attachments or lack of?
Well, obviously you're right that I'm not attached to anything or anyone, and I haven't been since the age of 30, which is a very long time.
Yeah.
And it's a state of liberation, I must add. It's amazing, really. But you see, attachments are the karmic chains, aren't they?
Certainly feel like it.
When a person, when a human feels that they are lacking something, they will automatically gravitate to someone who has the quality that they feel they lack within themselves. But they don't really lack that, they just haven't found it within. So then they form karmic chains, an attachment to that person. They might marry that person, or date that person for a time. But eventually, souls evolve and grow, and the attachment is no longer serving the needs of the people that are involved in it. And of course, at that point, the karmic chains are broken and they dissolve, and that person moves to hopefully not another attachment, but it's easy to get attached to another person or a situation. And this is what we call emotional baggage, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
I mean, the biggest thing about healing is we need to address emotional baggage. That's the most important thing. It's not good enough to heal, because that's like feeding someone as opposed to teaching someone or showing someone how to heal themselves. Really, we should be looking towards getting rid of the emotional baggage, or at least avoiding the programs that are creating this. Our belief system that we create as we travel through different levels of density, we pick up all sorts of programs that don't really serve us, or at least they serve us temporarily, but they bring us pain and suffering.
Yeah.
And we get drawn into relationships that could be abusive, addictive.
Yeah.
But there are ways to release those programs. One of which you will find on my website.
Yep.
Sorry to plug it again.
No, I was about to. It's just been fascinating in just the last couple of months of working with you, noticing that I no longer fall into that thought pattern. There's an awareness there. However, with, you can speak to this more so, you've got the lingo.
Yeah, obviously it is, again, not necessary to grow through pain. That's the old paradigm.
Yeah.
We don't need to do that now. We can infuse light codes, shift our vibration, release old programming that doesn't serve our highest good. Because the highest good is what moves us into the light, into a higher light matrix, so that we can embody more light. This is the reason why I'm here, is to help people to achieve their highest light potential, to embody more light, to be masters.
Yeah, what a gift. But there does seem to be sorry to interrupt you. But there does seem to be this epidemic, and I don't want to bring up the word narcissistic behavior or the false twin flame, or, you know, there's a lot of trends out there where a lot of people are speaking about this. There does seem to be a huge amount of people almost like requiring this to ascend, but there's such an issue with being stuck in it.
Yeah, there is a lot of talk about twin flames. It isn't necessary to ascend. It isn't. And I mean, I do have a twin flame. He unfortunately has been targeted and has been taken out of activity, shall we say.
Right.
Bless him. But you know, we have to look to ourselves. The most important thing is when we change, everything around us changes. Everyone changes, and there isn't a need to specifically be with another soul. That's not to say you can't be with another soul, but that soul must vibrate along with your energy field and your light. If it doesn't, then it could drag you down. This is why they often say that masters who are ascending don't very often choose partners. It gets a bit more complicated when you've got another person involved.
Yeah, a conundrum.
The twin flame idea, in a way, is almost like saying that there is something lacking in us that needs another part to add to it. Well, that's not true. It is true that the original soul, did split, you know, but those parts did go on to evolve separately. But we have the inner source, the creator, within us. We are already whole within. We don't need anything to add to that. We don't need another person. We don't need anything. The source is already inside us, and when you release all of the Kundalini, you will be aware of that, because you will connect with the inner kingdom, which Jesus in the Bible called the kingdom of heaven, which is a perpetual flowing fountain, if you like, of peace, love, joy. You never become depressed. So since 1982, apart from maybe a possible slight glitch when I was having terrific amount of opposition from the dark energies, I have never been depressed, ever.
Something to aspire towards.
Sorry, Emilie, what was that?
I said something to aspire towards.
Yeah. I mean, there's no need to hold that vibration. There's no need to. Depression means that somehow we are reacting instead of responding.
Yeah.
You know, reaction comes from perhaps a lower state of alignment rather than a higher state. When we're in alignment, we respond. You know, reaction comes from karma, from karmic ties, karmic bonds, attachments. So if we're attached to somebody and they say something unkind to us, oops, we might react, you know.
Yeah.
Tell them what we think.
The spiral commences.
Yeah. But response comes from the word responsibility.
Yeah.
And that comes from responding from a higher perspective. You will notice that a genuine master will not speak with excitement, because they are not engaging the emotional body, they're not engaging the intellectual body or the karmic body. They're only speaking from the spiritual body, the spiritual soul or source. I mean, if you look at Eckhart Tolle, he speaks slowly, deliberately. Yeah. If you hear other people on the internet telling you how wonderful they are, bless them, and speaking in a very rapid, excitable way, follow your passion. Well, not saying that you shouldn't, but these people are not centered. If you're centered in your inner peace, you will not respond that way.
There is a distinction, definitely. Yeah. I have to tell you when I got excited before, you
I
reminded
was going to
me.
say, what was that about the 2 years coming early?
Oh, wow. Well, I nearly fell off my chair when you said that about your birthday. So a couple of years ago when I was in Peru, I had yeah, a very powerful Kundalini clearing experience. I mean, clearly not the whole lot. I went back into society and, got stuck in some programs again. However, on that very, very poignant, extraordinary day, and I was sitting on the river in the Amazon watching the sunrise, and it was just, it was beyond description. And I started recording my voice because I was just hearing so much gnosis, just knowingness about the universe and receiving so much information. And I realized the date, and it was the 9th of September.
Oh,
And
wow, 9/9, that's powerful.
yeah, 9/9. Yeah, but get this. So I was born on the 30th of September, and my whole life, my mum's story, I was 3 weeks baked. 3 weeks baked. So I'm sitting there on the Amazon going, oh, 21, hang on, 30 minus 21. It's the 9th. This was the day I was meant to be born. I was meant to be born on the 9th of September. And I had my death rebirth experience on the day that I was meant to physically come into the earth, but I was 3 weeks baked, so I was born on the 30th. It
Wow.
boggles the mind. We're both.
But you also carried the power of 3 being the surges as well, though. But then, of course, 21 is 3. 21 is a Fibonacci number. That's 3.
And all these orbs playing around me. Oh, you can't
Sounds
stop
like an
this stuff.
amazing experience. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. However, it is back into this old paradigm of requiring quite a lot of heartbreak and pain to crack open,
Well, that's what happened to me. The soul does often choose that, Emily. I mean, I chose a lot of emotional trauma to get to the point of releasing the Kundalini, a lot of tragedy. But that was the choice my soul made, and it was obviously necessary in the 3D matrix to experience that pain to get to a birth. I mean, we always talk about labor pains, don't we? Physical labor, and also, in a sense, in the 3D world, spiritual labor. Being birthed onto the spiritual plane can be painful.
Totally.
Obviously, in the higher realms, it isn't. Once we get there, once we've achieved that, then there's no pain, does not exist for us. It doesn't serve us.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, talking about serving, there is something I wanted to mention, which I was actually thinking of you as well in this, and it's a message I want to give out to other people that obviously, as I've said earlier, I think everything serves us in some way, and really we shouldn't judge things as being good or bad because they are serving us. But if we're ever in doubt that something is serving our highest good, all we need to say is, if this person, situation, whatever, doesn't serve my highest good, take it out. Simple as that. Now, I won't refer to anybody specifically, but it came to me, somebody, I'm only going to mention one thing, South Africa. And you'll know. We don't need to mention any names, but you will know.
Well, fascinating.
Just say, if it doesn't serve my highest good, take it out, and I can assure you it will be dealt with.
Wowzers.
In fact, I did have I'll tell you briefly a funny story relating to this. Is some years ago I was working at Next, the retailer, fashion retailer, and I'd been moved to head office at Enderby in Leicester, and I seemed to have developed some sort of strange connection with a CEO there who'd been poached from Marks and Spencer's. And anyway, it looked like my career path was evolving, and I was perhaps going to get a promotion, and everything looked quite good. And then one night I remember hearing a voice saying that this man had some resemblance to my ex, or in the way of thought patterns. And I thought, oh no.
Wow.
I won't go into details, but my ex was the if you've seen Sleeping with the Enemy, the film, then you'll know what my ex was like. So I immediately thought, oh no. So I instead, no, I didn't phrase this right. I should have phrased it better. But I said, if this man is not a learning experience, then please take it out. And instantly, not only was it taken out, but the team that I was working with, we were moved physically to a different office miles away from him. Everything was shut down, and I haven't seen him to this day. But the thing is, Emily, looking back now, what I probably should have used is not, if this is not a learning experience. I should have said something like, if this isn't for my highest good, take it out, or because it could have been for my highest good. So it would have been a fantastic relationship, who knows? And of course there were connections there that would have given me promotion, but never mind. It was always my intention anyway to only work there as long as was necessary to build up some sort of pension, so I could use it to support me whilst I did my spiritual work fully. So, and that's what happened. I left, I retired early, retired at 50, took my pension early, and just used that to support me whilst I was building what I've built now, a business.
It's brilliant.
Yeah.
Wow. If this isn't for my highest good, take it out.
Or if this doesn't serve me, because take it out. Because as I said, things can serve us which are not necessarily considered to be higher. We might judge something and think, oh no, that's uncomfortable, because we always tend to judge according to our comfort zone. If something feels uncomfortable, we might think, oh, that's bad. We attach a judgment to it, and that sets up a program and a belief system which continues throughout our life. But it isn't bad. It's just that we're not comfortable with it.
Exactly.
So really, if we are not attached, you see, the judgment causes the attachment. When we judge it as being good or bad, we attach ourselves to it, and we can't release it.
Yeah.
So if we stop the judgment, the attachment dissolves. And so when anything comes into our life, or anyone for that matter, that might not be operating from the highest light, they will just pass through our lives without affecting us.
That sounds like a great a great space.
I think this is what I meant to say earlier, actually, Emily, but perhaps I might have got sidetracked. And I mean, things just pass through our lives because everything and everyone comes to us for a blessing.
Yeah.
And so when we're in judgment, we are breaking the laws of divine harmony. The idea is, when we feel unconditional love for everything and everyone, there's no judgment, no attachment. Everything comes and goes, flows easily. And of course, there's no discomfort, because discomfort is really the resistance.
Yeah.
We're resisting something. When we resist it, then it makes it stronger.
Yeah.
The energy becomes stronger. So we should never resist.
Beautiful.
That's why they say go with the flow.
Yeah. What you resist persists.
Yeah.
But it is fascinating. I told you before we started recording yesterday, it was just, it was bonkers, just all this crazy electrical interference. My Mac, I have an attachment to my beloved Mac. It's never broken. I spent 6 or 7 hours on the road yesterday trying to get it fixed, and then my car, the electrical stopped. Like, how does that happen? So it was a fascinating day of misalignment, lack of alignment. And there's sort of, there's some theories going around about feeling targeted, or sabotaged, or someone didn't want you to get on it or whatever. But I heard, it was almost like I had that conversation going through my head. Kira would be asking me right now, am I in alignment with this? And I wasn't.
Well, of course, I mean, it is true. We know there are denser, darker energies, but the idea really is not to buy into it to the point that, we're automatically thinking that we're being targeted, because that's victim consciousness.
Yeah, totally.
That only sets up a program. It's the same thing about protection. I was recently speaking to a group about this, and there was a guy who was telling them in this Zoom meeting how they need to protect themselves. Oh, they need to do this, they need to do that.
Yeah.
Now, one lady actually in this group, lovely lady, I won't mention the name, although she might see this video at some point, has this inbuilt program or faith that she believes that she will always be well.
Wow. And
this guy who was talking was almost trying to say, well, you need to protect yourself. And I could tell that she was then thinking, oh, have I done the right thing? Which is awful, because her faith is so strong that it's creating a wonderful program and belief system that keeps her well. To download suggestions from another person that might not be the case is detrimental, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely.
So I have to point out that protection tends to attract darker energies, because we're automatically telling ourselves there's something that we need to be protected from.
Yes.
So closing yourself off again is victim consciousness, because we need to be open for source energy to flow out through us from our divine center. When it does, its light is so bright that anything that approaches, energies will approach beings, entities, but they want to be transformed by the light. There will be some that won't, and they will fear it, but they will retreat. So we shouldn't worry about that. We should just operate from our inner divine center, let the light flow out, and not close ourselves off.
It's exquisite. But you have gateway events that we can join.
The gateway event. Again, this the energy will realign our thought habits and deter us from thinking in what we call a negative way or disharmonious way. It stops us thinking disharmoniously and aligns us with the divine, really. Divine thought habits.
Brilliant.
But you can find that on my gatewayascension.com website.
Great.
The events are always posted on there. We have the group on MeWe, which is, to my opinion, a better platform than Facebook. There's no spying going on, no banning, shall we say?
No sense.
Because my events were being banned continually by Facebook, so I had to move.
And you've got an abundance of content on your YouTube.
I've only been back for 3 weeks because I abandoned YouTube because they were sabotaging my videos, bless them. Just youtube.com /c/frequency capital F and light capital L, healing capital H. That's all.
Great. And that's your website as well?
My main website is frequencyandlighthealing.com.
Yeah. Beautiful.
I must go now, Emily, because I have a client any second.
Yes, perfect timing. We'll wrap up now. But gratitude.
It's been lovely speaking with you, Emily.
It's been such a joy. Yeah. I look forward to the next time. Have a beautiful day.
And you, Emily. You take care.
Much love.
Lots of love.
Bye.
Bye.